Hello and welcome to Share Your Secrets, a podcast that celebrates the diversity of food, art and community. We're Bounceback Food CIC, a community cookery school that has been fighting food poverty in Greater Manchester, Cheshire and North Wales since 2014. Earlier this year we started working on our second fundraising recipe book, Secret Dishes from Around the World Too. It has exciting recipes from 20 countries and 20 original pieces of art by 20 local artists. In each episode, you'll find out about 2 of the 20 countries that will feature in the book. We'll talk food, art and community with the artists involved, get insights from guests in the featured countries, and keep you up to date with what the Bounceback team have been up to. I'm your host, Miriam Rendell. I hope you enjoy listening. So, this week on Share Your Secrets, I'll be talking to Bernice Takley, an artist from Northwich in Cheshire. She was assigned the Italian section of Secret Dishes from Around the World Too. I'll also be talking to Akemi Watanabe, who works in an international school in Japan. But before we hear from them, let's get an update from Duncan. So I wanted to know, where did the idea come from for setting up Bounceback Food CIC?
So I studied economics and business management, which was like the perfect degree for me because those 2 subjects were the ones that I enjoyed most at school and then at A-level. I also enjoyed the fact that you could do a placement year, which allowed me to go down to Manchester and work in a marketing agency. Really enjoyed that sort of hands-on practical experience. But as my degree was coming to the end, I knew that I wanted to do something myself and set something up. And that's when I started to think about social enterprise. I was inspired by Tom's, the shoe brand, who whenever you buy a pair of shoes, they donate a pair to a child in a developing country, and just loved that model of buy one, give one. And also as a structure, a social enterprise was something that really resonated with me as something that would allow me to set up a business, but also making sure that we were addressing a challenge in society. That's where the idea for Bounceback Food came from. I thought, how can we use this buy one, give one model to tackle food poverty proactively in the UK? How can we use that model to ensure that food banks are stocked with good quality products? And also, how can we use that model to teach people how to cook as well and bring communities together?
So how did you put that into practice then?
So it was back in 2014. So I set up Bounceback Food and identified a supplier, went and bought lots of food, signed up to a Christmas market in Salford, and then went along and tested that idea of, if we were to sell a range of pasta, rice, tin food, soup, cereal, that sort of thing, would people be willing to buy a product and also donate one to their nearest food bank? Yeah, it was heartwarming. People did, and that gave me the confidence to then expand the idea and, do more market events.
So how did it feel that first time that you dropped off those tins and bags of pasta at a food bank?
Oh, it felt incredible. The very first donations went to a food bank in Salford, and then a lot of the markets that we did after that, because they were in Manchester, we were able to donate the food to FareShare Greater Manchester, which is where I'd spent time as a volunteer. And so it felt that, I'd gone from just spending time as a volunteer and thinking, how can we do things differently, to actually, this is now something that is supporting people. This social enterprise is generating items of food that can be distributed to people living in food poverty. And so that was so rewarding to see that.
So how did that develop then? Because now a key part of your work is cookery workshops. So where did the development for that come from?
So I realised that if we were to really start to proactively fight food poverty, as well as providing good quality, nutritious items of food to food banks, we'd also need to be teaching people how to cook as well. So I started to develop different ideas for cookery workshops, and what was a really nice extension of how we started was by using the buy one, give one model with our public cookery courses. We could hire a kitchen. Let's say that kitchen fit 12 people. We could sell 6 tickets and then provide 6 tickets for free via food banks or third sector partners. And so yeah, it was beautiful to see how the buy one, give one model evolved from items of food to food banks to bringing people together through food in practical cookery classes.
We'll hear more from Duncan next week. Bernice Takley is a fine artist from Northwich in Cheshire. I was excited to hear about some of the highlights of her career and interested to know what first inspired her to get into art.
Wow. It's like so many other artists, really, always drawn, always painted. Actually, thinking about it, I remember my mother doing a drawing of a baby doll, and I was probably about 5 at the time. And I thought, isn't it wonderful to be able to draw like that? And then when I went to school, I was lucky enough. I was quite academic and I had a very strong leaning towards languages. And my parents thought that that's what I was going to do. And I think I shocked them, actually, when I said I wanted to go to art college. But I had a brilliant, very inspirational art teacher, and she encouraged me to go to art college. And it was the best thing I ever did, really.
Tell me about the studio that you're based at.
Oh, yes. I do have a really lovely studio. It's located in a beautiful garden and we overlook water. So it's an idyllic situation. Yes, and I work in that studio. So it's just a hop, skip and a jump away from the house.
Oh, it sounds idyllic. I've seen that a lot of your work is influenced by your surroundings. Is that right? I've seen a lot of pictures of the boat.
Yes.
Are they just views from your studio?
My husband John and I are very keen waterway enthusiasts. We have a narrow boat, so sometimes, I sketch and paint when we are on the boat. But a lot of the local scenes do feature in my work. And of course, I've been commissioned as well, to do other people's boats and local scenes.
Tell me a bit about the Enderton boat lift that you were part of.
Oh, that was huge. And I was commissioned by the trustees of the Anderton boat lift. They raised a lot of money for the restoration of the lift, and they wanted to give a leaving present when they were going to dissolve the trust. And I was very fortunate to be asked to create a huge mural. I always say it's 30 feet by 8 feet because I talk in feet and inches still.
It's massive, isn't it?
So you can work that out how many meters it was. But it was huge. And it was painted on 7 panels, actually in my studio. And I couldn't fit all 7 panels into the studio. It's not that large. So at any one time, I was only working on 2 or 3 panels and I had to keep shifting them around. And I only saw the mural in its entirety the day it was installed at the lift. And it's on permanent display.
The 3 faces that you can see, are they the engineers responsible for the design?
That's right, yes. It's been there for, I think it's about 12 years now, and it's still looking in pretty good shape.
Do you work from photographs, Bernice, or do you do it all from eye?
I do a mixture. Because iPhones are so fantastic, I do work quite a lot from photos, yes. And certainly in the case of that mural, I had to, of course, because I couldn't just ask these fellas to sit for me to do their portraits. Sadly, they were all dead and buried.
Am I right that some of your paintings are in the private collection of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent? How did that come about?
Well, it's just one painting, actually. I was commissioned by Vale Royal Council to paint 2 paintings exactly the same of a beautiful place called Castle Park, where there is the most fabulous art gallery. And that's in Frodsham. The Duke of Kent was actually invited to officially open Castle Park. And my painting was presented to him. And I wasn't presented to him, actually, in the first instance, but in front of everybody, he said, well, who's the artist? And he thanked me personally in front of everybody. So that was really a lovely moment.
Gosh.
And I'm very proud that he has that painting in his collection.
And can I ask you about Show Me the Monet, the TV programme that you were part of on BBC Two?
Oh, yes, please do. Well, that was the second series. So when I saw it, I thought, oh, my goodness me, I want to be part of this, So I applied for it, and there were 3,000 artists applied for it. Anyway, I was very, very lucky, and I eventually was accepted. I had to go down for an interview down into Birmingham to have an audition in front of a camera. And then I had to wait for a few days before they told me that I was on. And I was on the programme. And it was down in London. Besides getting married for the second time, it was probably the most nerve-wracking experience in my life. And I was just incredibly fortunate, and I became one of the winners. And the prize actually was to exhibit in the Mall galleries. Unusual, because anybody who wanted to buy a painting had to do it by a secret ballot. And if they offered the amount that the painting was to be sold for, then you had to accept. If they offered just under, you could choose whether to accept the offer or not. I actually had an offer that was just under, and I chose not to. And it's the best thing I did, really, because that painting has given me quite a bit of notoriety. And it was also the start of a series of industrial paintings for which I'm known in this area.
I can see one in the reflection in the mirror behind you.
Oh, that's it. That is the one, yes, and I won't ever sell it. That is the famous painting called Night Shift.
So you mainly work in acrylic and watercolour on canvas or paper. How do you choose what to use for each piece?
If I'm on the boat, I take watercolours with me. My main preference is acrylics. Sometimes oil, actually. They're better if I do portraits. But I like working in acrylics, although when they were first introduced, I have to go back now, in the 60s, I didn't like them at all, and I didn't use them for many, many years. In fact, I also should tell you, I wasn't a fine artist until about 15, 16 years ago. I've been a professional artist since 1987, but I was actually a designer of wallpapers and furnishing fabrics and duvet covers. So it's quite likely that somebody listening to this could have been snuggled up inside my duvet cover at one point.
Were they floral designs?
At the time, there was a big trend for quite masculine prints. But yeah, no, big variety, depending what was trendy. We had to work for about 2 years in advance.
Gosh, well, I've learned something new today. Can you tell me about your influences? Are there any artists who really inspire your work?
I've got to say, I was always drawn to the Impressionists. I did visit Monet's house in Giverny. I like the ones with his figures, like, ladies in poppy fields and things like that, and the waterway paintings as well. But I used to love Van Gogh. And when I visited the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, I felt very emotional as I walked into the museum because it was a dream to see all his paintings. I like Seurat as well. I'm exploring quite a lot of Pointillism at the moment. I don't think those are on my website yet. I thought I'd get a little bit more colourful, and the Pointillism seems to help me to do that.
For anyone that doesn't understand Pointillism, can you explain what that is?
Aha, yeah, that's lots of little dots of colour. And as you place one colour next to another, it can produce another, or a whole series of the same colour, if you like. It will produce another colour. So blue and red together could make purple, to the eye, that is. But if you really look very, very closely, you would see the red dots and the blue dots.
How long would one of these artwork pieces take? It sounds very intricate.
That's a question. I'm often asked, oh, how long did it take you to do that? I lose myself in the time quite often. I do try to remember to jot down the number of hours, but very often I might be distracted by a phone call, or I've got to come over to the house or whatever, and then I forget to keep track. So I'm not trying to evade your question. Sometimes it's a very long time. I have one huge painting on the go at the moment that I started 2 years ago and put to one side. And I do that with several paintings because I either get a bit bored or I'm not quite sure where I'm going with it. And this particular large one, actually, is a montage of lots of buildings in Northwich. And I want to put lots of people into it, and boats and cars. So, I need to be careful. And I've reached that stage where I don't want to spoil it. But I will do it. I will finish it, hopefully this year.
And how did you hear about Bounceback food, Bernice?
Oh, this was a lovely one. I had a phone call from one of the Northwich Rotary members, and I understand that Duncan had been to give them a talk. And I believe I was recommended, which was a lovely thing. To begin with, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure whether it was my thing at all. And then the more I found out about Bounceback food and the wonderful work that they do, the more I felt very, very privileged to have been one of the selected artists.
So when you got your envelope with your country, how did you feel?
I was thrilled. I was ecstatic because Italy is my favourite country. And maybe lots of the artists are saying that, but I love Italy. I love the language. It's got a melody of its own. And referring to melody, I have to tell you that the very first opera that I went to was at La Scala in Milan when I was an art student. I loved it. I love the food. Who could help it? And my parents took me there on holiday when I was in my early teens. And I've just loved it ever since. Love the colour, love the architecture. I can go back there tomorrow. The one place I haven't been to, would you believe, is Venice, and that's still on my bucket list.
So what's your process to create a piece like this based on Italy?
I first of all did a layout. I did 2 layouts and actually took them to show Duncan at one of the briefings to make sure that it's what he wanted. I was relieved to begin with to know that I didn't have to just paint food. The idea of painting a plate of spaghetti or pasta, which what immediately came to my mind. I was really quite excited. And he said, about one of my landscapes, but that landscape did develop into a montage with different aspects of well-known architecture and tourist attractions in Italy.
Absolutely. So we've got a gondola in Venice. We've got the Colosseum, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, not to mention the Venetian masks. They're just stunning.
Oh, aren't they just gorgeous? Yes, I had to do quite a bit of research online. I thought, no, I cannot copy somebody else's design. So I made those masks up. But obviously very influenced by what I had already seen, yes.
And the fact that you mentioned earlier about your studio being close to water, the reflection in the light of the evening scene that you've created is just delicious.
Oh, thank you.
And the ice cream, don't forget the ice creams, the gelato.
Yeah, it's a funny thing about the ice cream, because as a child, I hated ice cream, would you believe? It was far too creamy and sickly, I thought. And it wasn't until I went to Italy that I started eating ice cream.
The best place. Bernice, what is the title of your piece for the book?
It took me a while to think about this, but because of the recent happenings in Italy with the coronavirus, I came to the conclusion there really is only one title for my painting, and that's Viva Italia, long live Italy.
Very fitting, very fitting. So how have you been coping in lockdown?
If this had been winter time, I probably would have been working furiously in my studio. But because we've had this mostly glorious weather, it's actually changed our lifestyle, and we've sat outside, breakfast, lunch. I feel guilty saying this, but it's almost been like being on holiday. And we know and appreciate just how very, very lucky we are living here. As long as we all stay safe, and that's the main thing. But I've missed my family, of course, like everybody, my grandchildren. I can't wait to see them all, and I cannot wait for those cuddles.
Have you been following the work of any artists during lockdown?
There are some modern artists whose work I very much admire. And it's all thanks to Facebook, really. An artist whose work I love over here is Heidi Jo Summers. She's been very, very successful. And she's what they call an en plein air painter. So she paints outside in oils. And I've noted all through lockdown, as with many other artists, she has been prolific with her work. So if she couldn't get out and do landscapes, she was doing them as beautiful flowers in glass vases. But it's the way she captures the light and reflections on her subject. To me, she's very, very talented. And another talented artist who, again, I only know through Facebook is Graham Berry. To me, he's a very, very fine watercolorist, but I really envy his talent with painting figures. Yeah, maybe I'll tap into 1 or 2 of his videos and learn from him, because that's the thing about art. It is a learning process. You can never, ever learn enough, I don't think, as an artist. And you are many, many times influenced by other work that you see. Not just that you see, it's other people's and artists' attitude as well. So I'm soaking it all up, while I'm fit and healthy and can do it.
It sounds like you haven't been creatively stunted by lockdown then.
I'll be honest, I wished I had done more. But I actually think the time with my husband is very, very precious. And we haven't rowed either. Well, not much.
And what about cooking, Bernice? Do you enjoy cooking?
Well, I'm the only one that does the cooking in this household. It's just the two of us now. Yes, I do. I used to enjoy baking more. I have recently done a lot of baking during lockdown, but I do enjoy cooking, yes.
What is your cuisine of choice if you had to have one?
I'm going to surprise you. I honestly would plump for English cuisine, and I'll tell you why. It's because we have been subject to so many different influences from different cultures, particularly in cuisine, over, well, many decades now.
So if you were holding a dinner party, what would be your speciality? What would you cook?
My favourite of all is a huge dressed salmon, actually. Served with either roasted courgettes, onions, leeks, ginger. I include ginger a lot, garlic, peppers, of course. And I either do them roasted or I do them as a stir fry.
Sounds great. My mouth is watering.
Well, one of these days you must come round.
And what's next for you, Bernice? What's your next project, or what have you got on the go? You said you've got your painting. What else?
Yes, I've got that, but I've also got several commissions as well. One is a wedding present, as a matter of fact, to a couple who just managed to get married around about Christmas time. One's of a boat to celebrate a 50th wedding anniversary. Oh, one's of a dog diving into the water. Yeah, I really need to start on those and get back into my work routine.
Bernice, have you ever been published in a book before?
I have 3, to be exact. Yes, there was the Bagging Man series. One was called The Bagging Man Takes the Train, and another one was The Bagging Man Visits the Weaver Valley. Obviously, the first one concentrated on trains, and I did a heck of a lot of research for that, and I had the author, who was John Hugh, so I had him hanging over my shoulder, and also my husband, who's a great train enthusiast, saying, no, you've got to put this right, and this is, So I did a lot of steam engines for this book, and the other one with the Weaver Valley, of course, all waterway scenes. And he also produced a book called Amazing Days Out. And this book was about various places that you could visit from the stations along the railway line, I think between Chester and Altrincham. But very, very well done.
Who would you advise to buy this book?
I think they're going to make fantastic Christmas presents. This is going to be a collector's book, isn't it, for cooks, travellers, artists and art lovers.
Oh, it's been so wonderful talking to you today, Bernice, and hearing some of the stories from your career and all about the artwork that you've created for the book. Thank you for taking the time to chat today.
Well, thank you very much. It's been my absolute pleasure. And I'd like to just say the very, very best of luck with secret dishes from around the world. And it's a thrill to be involved. Thank you.
You can find Bernice's work on Facebook or Instagram. Just search for Bernice Takley. Or check out her website, www.dianabernicetakley.com. Earlier this year at Bounceback Food, we ran our annual Social Enterprise Internship. The programme ran remotely, which enabled 20 young people from across the UK to join our team. Everyone was assigned one of the 20 countries that features in the book. Here's Esther with some fun facts about Italy.
14 billion espressos are consumed each year in Italy. Over 20,000 Italians work as baristas, and the average annual coffee consumption per Italian household is 37 kilograms. The national flag of Italy is green to represent hope, white representing faith, and red representing charity.
Now let's hear from Nuala to tell us a bit more about Japan.
If eating in a restaurant or with friends, loud slurping when eating noodles is seen as polite. Loud slurping indicates the food is delicious, so in Japanese culture, to not slurp is considered rude. Japan has 312 varieties of strawberries, some of which are claimed to be so delicious they sell for up to 50,000 yen, which is about £375 per strawberry.
Thanks to our interns for sharing those facts. The artist assigned to Japan is Jessica Owen. She uses a wide array of paint mediums, including spray, enamel and oil, to create her signature style, that of big brooding skies with a strong concentration of light and dark. The subject of her art in the book is Mount Fuji. For more information about Jessica's work, check out the episode notes on Bounceback Food's blog. To find out more about Japan, I interviewed Akemi Watanabe. She was born, grew up, and still lives in Yokohama, about an hour's train journey from Tokyo. I asked her to share any memories she had of growing up in Japan.
I lived together with my grandparents. So my family was grandparents and parents, me, brother and sister. So 7 of us all together living in one house. So it was a big, big family. Because the grandparents were there, I think I grew up Japanese way quite much. So the celebration of New Year Day was more Japanese. So that time, all the shops were closed since December 31st until January 3rd. So you cannot go for shopping. You cannot do any groceries. So you have to get all the food for everyone before that. So the fridge is really full and you try not to do much work during that time. So all the cooking has to happen before the 30th. So for 2-3 days, ladies just kept cooking. And I put everything in the fridge so that we don't have to work during that time. And even rice cake, we made it at home. So we steamed rice and using a special bucket and a big hammer. Have you seen that?
No.
Well, maybe you wanna search in the internet saying the mochitsuki.
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah, mochitsuki is a very fun event. Using a big wooden bucket and a huge hammer, you smash that steamed rice and then make it really sticky. And the ladies make it bubble or make it as a square rice cake. Yeah, and they just share it with the neighbors or relatives. It was a very big event. And as a child, I enjoyed it very much. And on New Year Day, of course, I wore a kimono to go to the shrine around midnight because that is the family time. You get all the family together. So they either go to make a prayer together with my grandparents. And then when I go to the shrine, there's a little stand shops around the shrine selling festival food, which is fried noodles or sausages, or it's like chocolate bananas. Not only the food, but something like small presents or toys and things like that. Very fascinating for children and full of people. So you need to line up like 2-3 hours to get to the shrine. It's like a Disneyland. Yeah, it's a long queue because all the people go to pray for it. So right now, I think many families just sit in front of the TV because there's a very famous TV show on the 31st and the January 1st. But our time, we didn't have that much time. We just went out and celebrated. We play games, but quite busy with eating.
After all of that preparation, yeah.
Yeah, after all that preparation, you start eating one by one. Yes.
And what about the male members of your family? What kind of task would they be doing?
They just wait. They just wait or drink or just go for a walk or playing kites.
Are there any recipes that maybe your grandmother passed down to you?
All of my family are not good cook. But during the New Year time, because rice cakes are very heavy, it stays in the stomach quite long. It takes time to digest. So traditionally, we eat pickled radish together with carrots. So with radish white and the carrot is orange. In Japan, white and red is celebration color. That combination is always used for the celebration. Much similar to that combination, white and red. It's that white and orange. So we slice them in a very thin way and then pickle them in a big tank. Well, it's really a big tank because it's for a full week for 7 or 10 people. So that pickled radish, I think, is a good one. But for the wedding, we give the guests osekihan. It's a steamed rice together with a sweet bean so that the rice itself becomes reddish color. And then that osekihan rice is a special rice for the celebration all the time. Not only for the wedding, but you bought a house or your child became elementary student or passed the university or something. Such kind of a celebration, you will see those osekihan red rice.
Are there any celebrations around the cherry blossom? Because that's a beautiful time of year in Japan.
Yes. We like to have festival party rather under the cherry blossom trees. So actually, people are very passionate about getting the best spot for the cherry blossom. So early in the morning or even during the midnight, they go to the park and they put the sheet on and put their name so that they keep the best location for the night.
Really?
Yeah. And then during the daytime, they buy the beer, any sort of drinks, and then food, of course. And now around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you'll see a big crowd of people under the trees having parties.
Is that over the weekend when the cherry blossom have come most into bloom, or is that all around the month?
Yeah, even during the weekdays, because it ends within a week. When it starts blooming on the next week, you won't see it.
Oh, okay. That's a very special time of year. Are there any national holidays that you celebrate in Japan?
Yeah, national holidays. We have tons of national holidays. Maybe Japanese are known not to take a long holiday,
Yeah.
a long break, right? But we have 1 or 2 national holidays per month.
That is quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That is one outstanding thing for this country. And then from August 11th until the 17th is the week usually people take holidays. That is called the Obon week. And then that is a time for the family as well. But it's not a national holiday. No national holidays involved in this week. But people take holidays as a summer holiday and they go back to the hometown and they spend time together with the family. So that Obon week actually is from Buddhism. Buddhists believe that their ancestor spirit comes back home so that the family get together and welcome that spirit coming home. So that's why they stay 1 week together and then go back to work. But it's not necessarily because they believe that in. It's part of the culture. Either during that time or around that week, we have Bonodori festival, so that people get together and then dance with yukata.
That's the costume, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Would you have those from a child?
Yes. From a little child. Of course, up to adults as well. I think I have like 4 or 5 yukatas for myself.
And what's the difference between a yukata and a kimono?
Yeah, kimono is much more formal. And a yukata is very informal. So usually you don't wear it during daytime. And at nighttime for that Obon dancing or firework festival. Because a yukata is usually made by cotton. So it's easy to wash and easy to maintain. But kimono is made by silk. You may not want to wear it and then sit on the ground. Yeah.
And traditional dress for a male member of the family. So you've got the kimonos. What would be the equivalent?
Men's also have kimono, but you don't see very many male here wearing kimono.
What brings local communities together in Japan?
It's quite much different from the city side and the countryside. The countryside still retains a traditional way of community, which includes family and some neighborhood. So like a group of neighborhood, like 40, 50 families together. But in the city side, community is unfortunately not existing very much. People so much individualized. So it's very common that you've never met the person who lives next to you in an apartment. But in the countryside, the family matters very much still.
And if you were to be coming together as a family to eat, what would be the traditional foods that you would see around the table?
If it's a normal time, you always see rice and a miso soup, which are very famous around the world. And if you live near the sea or family who likes the fish, then you will see fish. But that miso soup, when I see miso soup outside of Japan, it's really soup. But here, like the place I grew up, it's much more like stew. So you have much ingredients. You see different kinds of vegetables inside. So it itself is really a dish. It's not a simple soup.
I remember when I was in Japan, it was something that was offered for breakfast.
Yeah, in the morning it's something lighter. For dinner, it's much more.
And what kind of vegetables do you tend to find within miso soup?
Tonight, of course, I had some for my dinner. That was radish and cabbage. Sometimes we put carrots in, and when we use radish, we also use leaves as well. There's a seaweed, and tofu is also popular one.
What seafood would you enjoy eating?
All kinds of fish, fried or stewed or steamed. I think at my home, 5 days out of 7, we eat fish.
I think a lot of the food that you eat is really healthy and really good for your body.
Supposed to be. Could be too salty, you know. Miso soup is also use much salt for miso. And the fish also we use salt. So for Japanese, the problem is the amount of salt you take per day.
How about sushi? That's something that we would immediately think of when we think about Japan. Do you enjoy sushi?
Yes, we do. If you go to the supermarkets, they also use a sushi package. Of course, you can go to a sushi shop to enjoy sushi, the sushi shop or sushi restaurant. Even at the supermarket, if that market has some fish corner, usually there's a packed sushi too.
And sashimi as well. And do you make sushi at home?
Sushi, no way. No way. Sashimi, yes, because sushi, you need to have some vinegar in the rice, right? And then once you put the vinegar in, you have to eat it up. You cannot leave it or use it for the next day. How to make that rice part of the sushi? You need a technique.
And what about desserts?
But sweet bean is very popular, and a sweet bean together with ice cream or sweet bean together with rice cake. That's very popular, isn't it?
What's your favorite dish to eat in Japan?
It's a fried tofu. It's like tempura, but not that deep fried. You put a powder of potato around it and lightly fry it and then put it into the stock. That fried tofu is called agedashi tofu.
Do you find that you're always eating with chopsticks? That would be a big difference between here and in Japan.
Yeah, I think so. Chopsticks is very useful. It's very convenient to use. Of course, we use knives and forks, but it cannot be used as spoon, but it can be used as a fork and knives.
And when you eat out, I remember being surprised by going to a restaurant and taking my shoes off and sitting cross-legged around a table. Is that a normal culture that you'd expect when going to a restaurant?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite normal, and for us, I think it's relaxing. I don't know how the young people will feel, but to my age still, it's more relaxing to take shoes off and then sit around the table.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Oh, Akemi, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with me today.
Thank you, William. Thank you for inviting.
Thanks to Akemi for giving us a lovely insight of life in Japan. Remember, you can pre-order a first edition copy of Secret Dishes from Around the World too from the shop on Bounceback Food's website. Go to www.bouncebackfood.co.uk/shop to place your order. To find out more about the people featured on today's podcast, head to the blog on Bounceback Food's website, where you'll find the episode notes. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for listening to Share Your Secrets, a podcast by Bounceback Food CIC. I'm your host, Miriam Rendell, and I'll see you next week. This episode was sponsored by Bounceback Education, Bounceback Food's sister social enterprise that's based in Salford. Bounceback Education work to ensure that pupils from all backgrounds have equal access to quality tutors and learning programmes. Since 2017, they've been developing a hybrid solution to address the attainment gap in schools between pupil premium and non-pupil premium students. This involves the provision of support in person at their learning centre and also via a custom-built online learning platform that enables pupils to receive support remotely. For more information, head to www.bouncebackeducation.co.uk.